And we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Marco. I'm one of the co-mentors here at the Project, and I'm running you guys through our info session today. So we have plenty to cover. I have about a half hour. Definitely want to leave a lot of time at the end to answer you guys' questions. I've already received a whole bunch of questions. Make sure I go through all of this. First 20 minutes, I'll probably run you through the program. So here's what we're covering. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about our core 8 weeks, talk about all the web applications that you're building, what they are, what kind of feature sets you're going to be able to build, talk about technology a little bit, also why we do test-driven development, one of the industry standards, what that is and how we're doing that, and also algorithms, why that's so important. Now, we quickly want to talk about also the group project and how we customize our curriculum, and then go back and zoom out a little bit and talk about the support system, right? Like how we have office hours, virtual office hours, where our students come together, what happens during mentorship sessions, explain how our Q&A forum works and why that is so important, what that enables you guys to do. And then I usually answer that question that I get a lot, which is like, hey Marco, at the very end, what can I actually do when I'm done with the Firehose project? Or what capabilities do I have besides like having my own application launched or having like landing an awesome job? Or what am I able to do? So those are the 3 things that I'm going to go through. And obviously, if you guys have questions, either email me them. You guys should all have my email address, or put them in the chat box on the Google Plus page, and I'm going to look through them later down the line and go through your questions. But let's jump in. Core curriculum, right? So the whole program is 12 weeks of core curriculum. We also have 2 weeks of pre-work that we want all of our students go through an application process, and I'll talk about pre-work in a little bit. Let's focus on the core program first, right? So basically what happens, once you get accepted into the program, you completed pre-work and you already have a little bit of HTML background and CSS background and wrote your first Ruby scripts, which is what happens in the pre-work, then the first, I'd say 10 hours in the program, what we want you to build is a fully functional web application that you push live on the internet, right? We're building something pretty simple for professional web developers to do. It's a web application that stores and retrieves quotes out of a database and randomly displays that to the user on a screen. It's nothing too fancy. It still looks good, right? The goal we're always shooting for here at the Firehose Project is things should look so good that when you're at a party, you pull out your phone out of your pocket and you share what you built with your friends and you're like, hey guys, this is what I built last week. The response you should get back is nothing else but like, oh wow, that's awesome, you built this, good job, right? That's what we're shooting for. So it should look good on mobile, should look good on desktop, tablet, right? The mobile first responsive design aspect is always really important, right? First 10 hours, you launch your first application, you share with your friends, with your family. It's like, hey, this is what I built. Can you contribute, right? Putting you in the driver's seat of being a web developer, being a creator after 10 hours, right? And keeping that learning curve steep. Now, you might get user feedback that you can't execute on, right? But it's really good getting that and seeing like, oh, okay, this is how it works. I build something, I launch it, and I get feedback. And how do I react to that? It's really important as a developer figuring out those steps. Now, these first 10 hours, what they really help you with is getting a 360-degree view of all the moving pieces, right? You're touching the Ruby programming language, you're touching the Rails framework, you're touching Git for version control, GitHub for backing up your code. You're also pushing up to a Heroku server, you're dealing with your Postgres database, you're touching HTML, CSS, making things look good, working on responsive designs, right? You're talking about wireframes as well. That's in the first 10 hours. That's a lot, but it's really worth it, 360-degree view. Then we kick it up a notch, go to the next application. Next, we're gonna build something we call Monster. It's a Yelp clone in essence. And I think the most exciting features that you guys are gonna get out of that is integrating with the Google Map API. So that means when a user comes to our site, and let's say I have an awesome pizza place, right? I come to the site and I type in the address of my awesome pizza place, right? I go into a form, type it in. We need to not only grab the address and store it in a database, but we also need to write the Ruby code to translate those coordinates, the address, into longitude and latitude coordinates, pass it back into the Google Map API, so we get the pin on a map for that awesome pizza place, right? That wouldn't be really a fully functional web application, right? We need more than that. So we do star ratings. User commenting is another feature that we built. And then obviously, if I have a pizza place and one of you leaves a comment says like, hey, Marco's Pizza is the best, I would like to have an automated email notification telling me, hey, Marco, somebody just left a comment, 5 stars on your pizza place. You may want to check that out, maybe reply to it, right? So that automated email notification is another thing that we're building. And then on top of that, we build a dashboard so pizza place owners like me can come and actually get a little bit of analytics, like what's the average star rating, how many comments did I get in the last week, right? So dashboard for people to go to. That's kind of the Yelp clone. Obviously, wrapping that again in a mobile-first design so it looks really good on all devices, and it should be actually something that you can use and share with your friends, right? A lot of our students use that application and actually make it into their own. So for example, Adam over in London, he used that application not to map pizza places, right? He used that to map all the kids-friendly places in Rome, so now parents can use that application and actually debate what's a nicer place, that museum for kids or that museum, or this park or that park, right? So it really helps people use it, and he uses it with his family, and all these moms love it. So just another example how you can make the applications that you're building during the first, like, this is like week 3 or 4, and already make that into something usable for people to enjoy and improve their lives, right? Next up, we're going to kick it up a notch. We're going to build an online learning platform from scratch with you, right? So if you're familiar with Skillshare or Udemy, that's what we're building. It's basically 2 user roles. So one's instructor and one is students. So both of them sign up for your platform. And then from a developer point of view, that gets really interesting because I have different user roles, right? So instructors create video online lessons, right? Yes, we need to deal with video streaming, and we'll learn how to do that too. But what's more important is that we have instructors on one side and students on the other. And now we need to track on a database level which student purchased which course from which instructor. Can I only see the preview? Can I see the entire course? And how do we take care of that on a database level and write the Ruby code to make sure we track that accordingly, right? And I also said purchasing. So that also means we integrate with a payment API so we can accept credit card payments. One of the key features of so many applications out there is accepting payments on our platform and actually make users pay for those online courses that we do. That is usually the Flickster, the online learning platform, takes people about 4 weeks to complete. What we also introduced there, besides user login, registration, video streaming, right? We also introduced JavaScript in there, and that's a deep dive into JavaScript at the moment when you need it, right? For one feature, we want to improve the user interface for our instructors to make the user experience a lot better. That means what we want to have is a drag and drop feature of the individual lesson blocks, the individual sections that they have for their course, right? So if I have 5, 6 videos, I can reorder them without having a page refresh. And we're using JavaScript and AJAX calls for that, and we're learning that right then and there, so we're actually building out a fully functional feature and improving the user experience for our instructors on our platform. That's when we introduce JavaScript. Now, those are the 3 web applications that we do in about the first, you'd say, like 8 weeks, sometimes 7 to 8 weeks, call it that. What we also do is, in week 2, we start ramping you up on writing really good Ruby code to solve algorithmic challenges that are really important, especially if you're looking for a job down the line, right? So these are challenges that people throw at you in any technical interview, and they're also really, really helpful for entrepreneurs if you want to build advanced web applications that go beyond just commenting, beyond image uploading. They actually have something really, really valuable. And I mentioned a few of the projects that our students are working on right now, which goes way beyond the regular like upload, create an account, user login. So the advanced web applications, so why are we doing that for the entrepreneurs? For the job seekers, because that is what impresses hiring managers, that you can write really good algorithms and write advanced web applications. Those are the first 8 weeks. A lot of algorithms, a lot of logic, but also a lot of really cool mobile-first look and really good looking and usable, fully functional web applications live on the internet. Now, how do we specialize our curriculum afterwards, right? So we have 2 camps. We have the entrepreneurs on one side, and we have the career job switchers, career people on the other ones who want a job as a web developer at a tech company afterwards. Let's talk about the people, the job seekers, career switchers. Let's talk about those first, right? What we got with you guys is we're putting you on a group project to build an advanced web application. The app that we're building is a chess game. Now, sometimes we go, oh, come on, Marco, chess game is so boring. No, it is not. It is really, really challenging. It's really advanced. And every time I go talking with a senior web developer and I tell them, hey, this is what our people are doing, they're like, oh, wow, a chess game? That is awesome. It gets them fired up because it is so challenging to build. Now, let's think about that. Why is it challenging, right? So if we're thinking about just, let's take the king piece for an example. We need to track on a database level and write all the logic in Ruby code, how to move the king across the chess field, validate that the moves are correct, track on a database level which pieces the king kicked out, and keep track of those two. It gets really challenging really fast. And that is what impresses technical developers, technical hiring managers when they see that. On top of that, we're building that as a team, right? Why are we doing that as a team? Because it's absolutely crucial that you know how to work as a team on any development team. If you don't have team working skills, coding collaboratively, you're basically putting yourself in the pile of applications that no one really wants to look at, because you can't have impact on day one on the job because you don't have the bread and butter of what it is all about. And that is, the best software in the world is written by amazing teams, and you want to know how to work together as a team. So that means using GitHub. I call it an advanced mode, right? There's pull requests. You need to know how to break individual coding features into coding blocks, so you can split them up across a team. So one person's working on something huge, but everyone is working together. You also need to know pull requests, right? How to work together, how to comment, how to refactor your code. And all of that is what you do every single day as a developer on a job. And so you learn that during the last 4 weeks in the program. And what actually happens during technical interview processes, and I just talked with one of our students last night, Erin, and during her interview, she spent the majority of the time actually going through the code that she's written for the chess game. And the people were excited that she was able to build such a complex application in a team. And she showed her like how she commented on other people's code, how she refactored other people's code, how she refactored her own code after she got suggestions on how to do that. And that's crucial, again, to work on any team, and you want to be able to do that on day one. And that's why we're focused on that for a full third of the program, how to work together as a team to build something really advanced like a chess application. Now, for the entrepreneurs on the other side, what do we do with you guys, right? You probably don't care about building a chess application. The teamwork aspect is still really important, so some entrepreneurs jump on that for a little bit too, and then they focus on their own application. What we do there is, throughout the entire program, we always do wireframing. It's like the real world, right? We're building the individual screens of every, we're building the screens of every single page on the application out. We're drawing that, pencil and paper, technical tools online, whatever you want, just to communicate what are all the features that we're building, and then we're writing the code. And now, doing your capstone project, during the last 4 weeks, we do the same thing again. We take your idea, we wireframe it out, draw all the individual screens out, and then we start breaking it down into coding steps and building out every single feature one by one, knocking them out and pushing it live, just like we do it in the real world. So those are the different tracks, right? Career seekers, go on a group project, really crucial of landing a job. That's how your bread and butter, you need to learn that. Otherwise, you're having a huge competitive disadvantage to everyone else who's applying for a job. And the career seekers, we're pushing your own application, your own idea for web application live on the internet, so you have that launched within the program. Now, the other thing that's happening throughout that entire 12 weeks is that you have access to that support system, right, that I talked to before. Now let's talk about that a little bit. So it's 3 pieces. We have in the center, I'd say, is the office hours. I personally love the office hours. It's a time where all of our students come together, students who are in week 10 and students who just started in week 1. And it really gets, not only do you get to know the other people, your potential teammates for your group project, or other entrepreneurs, and hear what they're working on and see their code. You also, like we talk about, mentors are in that virtual video chat as well. And we talk about, this is how the individual pieces of a web application fit together, right? We're talking about, hey, I have an error message in week 10 of the program, right? My test-driven development, my tests that I wrote for my software application, they don't quite work. So we debug that live. And so if you're in week 1, right, you go like, oh man, this is really far ahead. I don't quite know how to write that code yet, but you can see where you're going, so you can see the path. It's really valuable. On the other hand, if you're in week 10, right, and you see somebody from week 1 or 2 answering a question, you're like, hey man, I was just in that spot a few weeks ago, and you take that question and you answer it and you help somebody out, right? Not only does that make you feel good, but also is a different way of solidifying your own learning because of that teach back moment. So that happens in office hours, and I really love everyone coming together and working together towards the same goal of becoming a proficient, better web developer. Now we also have the forum, Q&A forum. People usually tell me, come on, Marco, that forum, it's not that exciting, but it is what it enables that's so important. And that's getting help when you need it. So when you're stuck, we're helping you immediately, right? So you're coding Thursday night and you have an error message. You try everything we train you to solve your own error message. It doesn't quite work. So you can take a screenshot of your error message, paste it into the forum, and within an hour or two, we get back to you. And usually what it is like, hey, you missed a comma on line 13, you missed an equal sign on line 36, right? And then you're on your way, you got help, you're good to go. You can keep coding and keep learning, right? And you're not stuck spinning your wheels. What that does is when you come to the mentorship sessions, which are once a week for 1 hour, and 1 hour is really important. Half an hour really doesn't work. So it's 1 hour where we can do a deep dive and either go deep into algorithms, more into test-driven development. By the way, we have a full section on test-driven development. I explain what that is in a moment. So you can do a deep dive into a subject area that's hard for you, algorithms. We build an additional feature on top of your platform, doing a group project. We help refactor your code, right? And because you have access to the forum, we can take care of all these silly error messages, missed comma, equal sign, semicolon, a typo, beforehand. So you arrive at the mentorship session error-free, and we can focus on what really matters to get you to the next level. So every single time you meet with your mentor, you're going to do you pair program, and that mentor gets you to the next level. So test-driven development, I mentioned that too a bunch of times, right? It's a core module of our curriculum, and you go through that usually in week 5 or 6, usually before you actually build the Udemy clone, the Flickster. You go through that, and test-driven development is writing automated software tests to make sure to automatically test if all the pieces, all the features of our application still working. So that means test-driven development is writing the tests first before we build the features. So a test fails, then we build a feature, then the test passes. That's the industry standard. If you don't have that, you, again, missing the bread and butter. So you need test-driven development and group project, that collaboratively coding. That's really important for all your career seekers out there. So you really need that. And as an entrepreneur, if you don't write tests for your own application you push out there, then you get those emails from users, sorry, the page is broken, I can't sign up anymore. And you really don't want that, because that means users are leaving your site really fast. So you want to make sure you have that piece too. That's why it's one of our core modules that we run all of our students through. Okay, I've talked a lot about, again, the test-driven development. But remember, it's the Q&A forum that gives you the responses back within an hour or two, that enables you to come to the mentorship sessions and actually get that deep help, get that help on things that really matter, like the algorithms, the test-driven development, the group project, right? Building an additional feature that you have a hard time building together with your mentor if you're an entrepreneur, right? And then the office hours where we all come together and actually go over problem sets together and learn. So you have these multiple touch points throughout every single week in the program. Now, I want to answer that one question that I usually get, which is like, what can I really do afterwards? What kind of skills do I have, right? That's beside having your own application built by yourself and launched as an entrepreneur, or finding an awesome job and acing a technical interview. What you can really do is, if you have an idea, you can sit down for the weekend or a week and you can program that, and you can launch that idea and push that out there, and then get feedback from your friends, get your first users, get your early adopters, right? And solve a problem that you see that needs to be fixed, right? That's really what you have. You have those technical skills to produce and ship web applications live that really work, like advanced stuff. So now I can go through questions, a few things that so feel free to start sending me questions right now if you haven't done so already. A few things that I said is like, when I said like advanced web applications, what do I mean, right? What do some of our students are working on right now? So, or have they done, like some of our alumni, right? Let's go through. So we have Stephen Fung. I think he's a great example. He's out in Sacramento. He was just featured, I think, on CNN. He sent me a video. He gets interviewed by the press now all the time. What he built is an on-demand medical marijuana delivery platform, right? So you say, I want an 1/8 of an ounce, and then you see the car driving on the map, just like an Uber or a Lyft car, and your order actually comes to your house. You walk down, you grab the little bag, payment is already handled. He built that throughout the program, and he right now signs up users and dispensaries left and right, and his business is going really, really well. It's one person. Another person, we have Jay. He works at Adobe. That big Adobe Creative Suite, that huge company. He works there, and he codes with us. And what he did is, like, he has a Fitbit, and what he doesn't like is that every evening he gets today you did like 5,612 steps. He's like, that's not motivating, right? Fitbits, right? These trackers, steps trackers. So he integrates with the Fitbit API. Every evening he pulls out how many steps he took that day, and he made himself a goal on a Google map. He said, I want to walk from LA to New York. Every night it tracks how many steps he took, and it adds those steps to his path, his trail across the entire US, and tells him where he is today, and shows him 3 random Google Street View images, like, hey, this is what you've seen today if you were to do that hike in real time. But he actually was just walking around in the office, right? But he was tracking each of his steps. So that's pretty advanced logic, integrating with that API and translating that and randomly showing those pictures. Another student, he's in London. He's an opera singer, so he's really into music, right? And what he says is really hard for people to get is, like, their voice, their pitch needs to be perfect. So what he's building is he actually records your voice, and then in the same moment, like instantaneously, he shows you on the screen if you're hitting your tunes correctly, right? So he demoed that the other day for us. He sang us the tunes, and he obviously hit it perfectly, right? If I do it, I can't sing. Like, I would horribly fail, but it's a training instrument for people learning how to sing. So, right, that is like all voice recognition, and it's just really like making sure the pitch is perfect and defining those parameters of when is a pitch good and when is it bad. Like, when am I singing, when is Wei singing, right? So these are like the advanced applications that our students are building that I'm talking about. Let's see if we have any questions. Okay, there's a few questions. Awesome, love it. Hello World is the first one. Great name, Hello World. Return policy. First week, 100%. If you sign up, if you accept it into the program, I should talk about pre-work too. If you accept it into the program, first week you get a full 100% refund. Anytime after, we give you a prorated refund of the amount of days you spend in the program, right? So you're not like handing over all your cash, and if you don't like it, you can't get out. No one wants to keep your cash if you don't like our program. Hasn't really happened so far. But that's our return policy. Jonathan, what kind of prep do you offer as far as career services? Do you have a statistic on job placement? Great question, Jonathan. So prep for career services, right? Prep for job seekers. Like, how can you help me find a job? Can you prepare me for that, right? So our prep is not something we add at the end or the last 2 weeks. That's silly. Our prep starts in week 2 when we teach you how to write algorithms that actually solve real-world problems, and also like these problems that you get in technical interviews, right? So our coding challenges are actually used at PayPal, at Yahoo, at Flickr, Bitly, at Techstars companies. That's what you're going to encounter when you're on the whiteboard in a technical interview process. And we teach you them starting in week 2. We actually teach you them in the pre-work already. There's a coding challenge that you need to go through that so many companies use at the very beginning to screen people out via quick email tests. Can you code this? Can you make this simple algorithm happen? If you can, you're not even going to get a phone screen, right? So during pre-work, you're already learning how to overcome the first obstacle. Then during the core program, you're going to go a lot deeper into really complicated algorithms. So you start learning how to prepare for the technical interview as a career seeker in week 2 in the pre-work, and then in week 2 of the core program. And then down the line, we have several training sessions on whiteboarding, right? So your mentor will run you through how to go through a whiteboarding exercise. We'll also prep you. We have several example resumes, so you know how to do that, how to make your resume stand out. But what matters most for the career prep is how well you do in a group project and what kind of code you contribute to your team, because it's not your resume. It is all about the code that you wrote and how it is on GitHub and what you can see there. It is much better showing one line of one link to a specific piece of code that you wrote. Like this could be 50, 60 lines with all the test coverage. That's what gets you interviews. It's not and jobs. It's not that your resume is perfectly formatted, but we also help you with that, obviously, as well. So I hope that answered that question. There's already, wow, lots of questions pouring in. Love it. Do you have statistics on job placement? So right now on our site, if you're still in the research process, guys, we have in the top navigation, there's a coding bootcamp guide. Read that, Jonathan, you should read that. There's a chapter, I think it's 6 or 7, what really matters. And job placement statistics, they're all over the place. I can totally fudge them if I want. For us, every single student who wants a job found a job so far. But I'm not going to say it's 90% or 100% because it doesn't matter. Because I can get you an internship that's unpaid any place, and I can count that as a job placement. So don't worry about these numbers. Forget them as fast as possible. What's way more important is what's the average salary of the, or not an average, what's the starting salary? What do you tell people not to accept at the very bottom? And I usually tell people nothing below $65,000 a year will do as a junior web developer. Danielle, is mentoring one-on-one? How frequent is it? Yes, Danielle, it's one-on-one. You get a personalized coding mentor that's with you for the entire 12 weeks of the program, and it is once a week. Now, that's the mentoring with your code mentor. Once you're in a group project, if you're interested in switching your job, you also have a mentor session with your group, which is 4 people, that you have a weekly check-in as well as having the weekly office hours. So then you have 3 hours per week that you need to check in with mentors, group office hours with everyone, and your individualized mentor. We have just a short background story. We did split the mentorship sessions in half-hour slots, but it actually doesn't work. And all our mentors agree with us on that. In half hour, you end up just troubleshooting simple things. In 1 hour, you can go really deep and actually code together and build something of value. So great question. Nick, I'm currently interning at a company and working 9 to 5 every day. Is the curriculum flexible enough to work around that schedule? And how many hours per week do you expect students to devote to the program? Totally. On your own time, if you work 9 to 5, we have plenty of people in the program that work 9 to 5 right now. So you can code in the morning a little bit, code in the evening, maybe schedule your mentorship sessions on the weekend. We have a lot of them happening, or in the evening at like 8 p.m. or something when you're home, right? So definitely do that. The hours per week, I'd say a minimum of 15 hours, 1-5 per week. If you're on a career seeker track, if you want to switch jobs, Nick, I'd say spend about minimum of 20 hours per week on the program, right? And then usually what happens, you get so excited, especially when you're in a group project, then you start coding all Saturday and Sunday and add additional hours to it. But 15 hours, the bare minimum, I'd say go towards more than 20 hours per week. Now, there's also people who go through the program full-time, right? They get challenged even more, right? You might do an additional algorithm with them. You might go deeper on test-driven development, or maybe they do a second group project because they complete the core materials a little faster because they add more time to it. But 20 hours per week, totally doable. Jonathan, another question. How set in stone is a 12-week course? If you lag behind, will you run out of time? No, not really. The 12 weeks is what we want you to graduate. If you fall behind, we extend the program by up to 2 weeks for you, it's no problem. So 2 weeks pre-work, 12 weeks core program, you're looking at 14 weeks already. You can extend it at the end 1 or 2 weeks. So you're looking at a pretty long program already of 16 weeks. I wouldn't extend it much longer. There's this thing called the inflection point. At that point, you become a self-sufficient developer, and all the doors all of a sudden start opening, and you can teach yourself, and you really learn how to fish rather than getting fish from other people, right? So you're really accelerating, and at that point, you learn at an exponential rate. So that means the longer you drag things out because you can't dedicate enough time to it, the more you actually fall behind. So it's really important that you push really hard and trying to get to that point as fast as possible Because at that point, you're learning at a different speed than anyone else who hasn't reached that point yet. So the sooner you get to that, the better you're off. I hope that answered your question. Okay. How many students do mentors, instructors get assigned each cycle? So Julian, there's not really a cycle. We start new students every Monday. Our mentors have anywhere between 1 and 5 students assigned. Some of them, the full-time ones, have right now, I think 6 is the max. That's 6 hours per week. And since it's one-on-one, it works out really well. Julian, hey, thanks for the thumbs up. Yeah, Julian just said, hey, the definitive guide to coding bootcamp was a huge help in my research. So again, guys, read that guide. It's on theFirehoseProject.com/definitive-guide, or just look in the top navigation, go there. It really breaks down how we as professional web developers would go through the research process and explain what matters and what doesn't matter, what you should watch out for. There's no marketing in there. It is just the bare facts of what is important. All right, let's see if I have a few more questions here. Super awesome so far. Keep them up. I'm having fun. Let's see. Oh yeah, what's the application process? Great question. I talked about pre-work a little bit, right? So again, there's a 12-week core program. We also have pre-work about 2 weeks. In the pre-work, we're teaching you HTML and CSS so you can build a splash page that you put on a portfolio page that you put live on a server, so it's live on the internet, so you have that. And you can also go through and build, learn how to do really good Ruby code, right? Running you through a bunch of exercises. And what we're doing there is at the end of pre-work, you're actually capable of solving a coding challenge that so many technical interviews send, or technical companies send you out as a technical question in an email screen before you even get to a phone screen or an in-person technical interview. So it really like sets you up, right? And I've just talked to one of our students and he said, you know, Marco, that got me really thinking, wow, you're already helping me go over a hurdle that 70 to 80% of people who apply for developer jobs never even make in the pre-work. I couldn't even imagine what happens during the core program, right? And that sets you all up, all you guys up. You're already learning how to write really good Ruby code during the pre-work. And yes, pre-work is free, right? So apply for it. Go to theFirehoseProject.com, top nav again, there's the coding bootcamp pre-work. You can read about it a little more, apply for it, tweet at us that you applied, we love that, and we usually look at your application a little faster. We get a ton of applications every day, so make sure you take a moment and actually fill out the application and tell us a little bit about your coding goals. Really important, right? We want to know where you want to go and why you want to get there. We also want to know your coding background. What have you done, right? That really helps us not only figuring out like, okay, what do we need to customize for you? Where are you coming from? How can we help you doing the pre-work, right? It's really important for us. So take your moment to fill those out. I was awesome. I'm just looking at my email and I get like pre-work submissions from students right now while we're going through that. So awesome, makes me happy. How are the materials presented? That's another great question. So materials are presented in several different ways. So the first one, I'd say, we have a mix of everything, right? So we do have some videos, we have written guides, and then also live. So let's talk about the written guides first, right? Written guides, really detailed step-by-step instructions on how to build a web application, right? Which open source project to pull in, how to integrate with Google API. Now, why written? Written because of 2 reasons. First being, in the real world, you're always going to come across documentation, right? If you integrate with an API, there's API documentation. If you work on an open source project, there is documentation explaining how to use the open source code, right? So documentation is everywhere, and every professional web developer knows that. So going through our guide, by going through the written documentation that we have, the detailed guides, you actually learn how to use documentation, so it prepares you for the real world. The other thing is reference materials, right? Down the line, you always have access to all the materials in the project, even after you graduated. So you can come back and use that as reference. So you go like, oh man, I need to build this feature on an automated email notification, and I don't know how to integrate with SendGrid, which enables that, right? Which is another API that we're integrating with. So you can go back and be like, oh, right here is that one line of code that I need for my other hackathon project or for my work even, and quickly take that and make it happen on my other application. rather than if this were video, right? You'll be zooming back, jumping back and forth, and rewinding and forwarding in the video for forever, right? But that, you can quickly search, find it, go in, find the piece of code that you need. So these two pieces, real-world application of documentation, and then the rich reference for all the guides. That's why it's written. Now, we also have videos, and those videos we give to you at the point when you need it, right? So there's a certain point where you are probably going to be like, okay, there's a lot of moving pieces in a web application. So what we have is a video that explains to you the MVC, the model view controller architecture of any modern web application, and the one you just built. So we're explaining what a model does, what a controller does, what a view does, what an HTTP request is, things that you need to know to become a proficient web developer. We have a video over session, and that enables, again, when you come to your mentorship session, when you're one-on-one, you can dive a lot deeper into places that may have been a bit hard for you to understand during watching the video, the overviews, right? The other thing we have is object-oriented programming, a key concept. You need to understand how to do that. We have a video session on that because it's a lot easier having that explained in a video than actually reading guides for it, right? And then there's also another thing, inheritance. It's another key concept that you need to understand. So we have videos for that too. Then obviously there's a live instruction, right? You have people like me who teach you how to write better algorithms, who refactor code together with you. There's the office hours, right? That's also live. There's a group project. That's also live. We're learning and working together with other people, seeing how they write code. That's really important. And how could you help them improve it? Or maybe they help you. And then the group project meeting. So there's a lot of live teaching as well involved. So those are the three things: written guides, video when you need them, and the videos when you need them, and then also the individual, the live sessions, mentoring, group project meetings, working together with your teammates, and the office hours. Awesome question. Okay, let's jump in. Anything else here? Oh, Jonathan, how much of the content is created by Firehose? Let's see, percentage, way above 90%. Let me tell you, 95%. There's a few resources that we need to push you outside for reference materials, right? Open source projects, that kind of stuff. And there's also a few exercises that we push you out. But the vast majority, way over 90% of the course was all created in-house and is constantly updated, right? This is a fast-moving field. So if any open source code that we pull in, for example, for user authentication, something that's fairly simple to do that you guys learned in week 2, there's something changes there in the documentation, we update our guides immediately. And that's why the forum is so valuable, because we see like 50 people coming through, and the first 2 discover like there's some change, and we didn't notice that because it happened on Friday afternoon. We're like, oh wow, so Saturday morning we have a quick team call, and we're like, hey, we need to update our guides. And before the other 48 people of that wave come through, we already have the guides updated, so they don't have that problem, right? So the consistent update of our guides is really important to us. So great question. Okay, Danielle asked, apologies, can you repeat, expand on the workload? If one-on-one mentor contact hours are once per week, what materials are we working through aside from work set during the mentor sessions? Okay, Danielle, let's say you have your mentorship session on Tuesday, right? We're on Monday right now, and let's say you have your mentorship session on Friday, it's better. From Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, what you're doing is, for example, you go through our guides and you learn how to build your first web application that stores a quote in a database and displays it randomly to use on a screen. Wrap it up all nicely so it looks nice on your mobile, tablet, desktop, right? You learn that. Then you're gonna watch a few videos because you're done with it. We do a code review. We make you watch a few videos that explain how all the pieces fit together. Then you have your mentorship session. In a mentorship session, we may pick up the first coding challenge and we start writing the first algorithm together, right? Maybe just half of it. Then you get the homework assigned to start working on a Yelp clone, and you're also going to work on the second part of the algorithm until next Friday when your next mentorship session is happening. So that's that workload. That's where those 15, 20 hours per week or more, if you have more time to dedicate, come in. So Daniel, I hope that answers that question. Okay. Okay, Jonathan, you guys are awesome. I'll be here all night long. I love this. What is the minimal role or title you could apply for at the end of the program? And what is the range of jobs you could be productive with? Okay, minimum role. So it's always hard to say like minimum, right? Junior web developer. There's people out of our program, they have junior web developer jobs afterwards. There's people who have Rails engineer number 2. So they're a junior, they're not a Rails engineer, they're one level up after the program. There's people who are now the lead engineer at their company because the startup is really small and it only has a handful of developers on the team, right? So it really depends what we're looking for. Generally, I'd say shoot for anything junior developer. Depends on the company. We obviously help you, right? The reason what's really good is that our mentors have such a rich background, so experienced. All of our mentors, they hired junior web developers and trained them before. So that means that they can actually give you the green light, right? And they would be like, you know, hey Daniel, you right now would pass my screen and I would tell the hiring manager, thumbs up, that guy needs to be on our team, right? You want to get to that point. So you want to use your mentor that way and actually have them tell you that you're good enough. Or you want to ask them, and if they tell you, no, you're not good enough, I would not give you the green light. And here's why. And then you have the points that you need to improve, and then you can use your mentor to improve upon those points, right? So I hope that answers that question, right? Anything junior developer, web developer, that usually is what you want to shoot for. Okay, cool, great question. Now that question was by Jonathan. Sorry. Now Daniel had another question. You mentioned programs start every Monday. What is the lead time for enrollment? Okay, here's how this works. You're applying for pre-work. That's 2 weeks, right? On top of the 12 weeks of the core program. So apply for the pre-work. We get you onto the core platform. Pre-work is enabled for you. You can go through the pre-work challenges. 3 challenges that I want you to complete. You send them to our team. We do a code review. If you pass them, you're accepted into the program. At that point, we know you have a minimum level of coding skills and you actually are motivated to go through, right? You basically just passed the 80% mark of all these people that get filtered out during that email screen, the coding challenge in the real world, right? Those are the people that you have now in the program with you. Those are your teammates. So there's a big filtering going on. It's not too challenging, but you can definitely do it. But I want everyone to go through that because then we can accelerate you properly. So lead time for that, 2 weeks. After you're completed the pre-work, we usually start you right the next Monday. Sometimes, depending on your time zone, right? If you, I don't know where you're based, if you were in Australia or you're in Europe, we sometimes need to pause you a week and say like, okay, let's start you next week because we need to have a mentor that's in your time zone properly, and we got to figure that out. So, but usually, yeah, you can start immediately after, so lead time isn't that much. Okay, let me see, did I get another email here? Really great question. Oh, here, another question is, why is the group project so important? Because you said that a bunch of times. Group project, there's a great article that was just written by my co-founder, Ken, on why group project matters so much, knowing how to code as a team. And just talking to our graduates, right, they tell us this was the bread and butter. Like Erin yesterday said it when I talked to her. She was like, if there's no group project in your program that you go into, in person or online, do not take it. It will disqualify you immediately as a job seeker because that's what they want you to do on day one. They want you to write good tests, they want you to know how to do pull requests, and they want you to know how to work together as a team. If you don't have that, they don't know what to do with you. They need to train you for 3 weeks before you can even pick up, like open the computer pretty much. So you don't want to be in that spot. That's why group project is so important. And if you want to find that post, let's see how we can do that. We send out, we had a newsletter last week. It's on, if you do Ken Mazeka on medium.com, you can find that, and I'm happy to email that out. So great question. What's the difference between us and some of the competitors like Blog, Tealeaf? I think I said it again, group work, right? Don't go without it if you want to find a job. If you're an entrepreneur, you need that too. As soon as you hire the first people, you want to know how to work together with them as a team and be effective, right? That's the moment when your application takes off and you get all these users. When you need help and now you don't know how to work together, you basically dig in your own grave, so to speak, because you can't move fast enough at the moment when you need it because you don't know how to work together, right? So group project, that's really key. You have to have that. A lot of our competitors don't have that. The other thing is depth of curriculum. I don't see test-driven development really covered in any of the other curriculums. Key thing, bread and butter again, for entrepreneurs, just so you make sure your stuff doesn't break when it's live. For job seekers, right, you just need to know that. You can't get any line of code into the main application if you don't know how to write adequate test coverage for it. So that's really key. So, and then the algorithms, right, that's what gets used through the technical interview process. That's what gets you to good jobs. Building these advanced applications, like a chess game, like the Fitbit API that I told you about, like the on-demand delivery platform, right? That's what matters. That's what impresses people, and that's what our curriculum is designed for. Great question. Okay, let's see. Do you have anything else? Wow, this is so awesome. I love it when I get good questions. Let's see. I think, oh, here's one more. Jonathan, great question. How similar is the format for the pre-work and the actual program? Okay, pre-work, core program, right? During pre-work, we'll check in. You have forum access. You can ask questions, so we help you there. Response times may not be as fast. We might not get back with you in an hour because there's lots of people on the pre-work. We also have, we check in with you regularly, right? You probably, sometimes you get emails from me and I nudge you a little bit and say, hey, what's your update? I want to know what you're doing. How's it going? Do you have any questions, right? So we check in with you. We don't have mentorship sessions there. We also currently don't have office hours in there. We might do that in the future, but right now we don't. Pre-work is, some content is written by us. Other content is external content that we push you to, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, teaching you how to write good, really good Ruby code on that fundamental beginner level, right? We can use other resources out there that are really good. Eventually, we might write our own code, our own guides for that Ruby section, but for now, it is external. So then, as soon as you get in a core program, it is 95%, as I said before, our own curriculum, and you're going through that. And then we also crank you up on using the Rails framework and building real web applications that start with installing a professional-grade web development environment like, you know, no one else out there has it. This is exactly what the professionals use in the job, and not one of these like quick one-click installers, even though our installation process is pretty close to one click. Okay, great question again, Jonathan. Okay, let's see if I have anything else, maybe something in my inbox. If not, then I'm gonna wrap this up fairly soon. But if I missed any of your questions, you have anything else coming up, something that I wasn't clear about, or you wanna know anything else, right? Then just email me. Reach out, send me an email. You guys all have my email, happy to do that. What I'm looking out for right now is your applications to the pre-work, and then I wanna see you guys going through the pre-work and submitting your coding challenges and doing really well there, because that is key of getting admitted into the core program. Any other questions? Hey, I'm more than happy to help you guys. This was super fun. I'll do one more quick look for one last question. I don't have anything. Jonathan, Daniel, nothing from you guys. We're good to go here. Guys, stay awesome. Thanks so much. It was a lot of fun. And I'll see you in the pre-work. Take it easy.